By the late 1800s, drinking in America wasn't just about throwing back a glass of booze. It was about culture, class, and sometimes just plain survival. And if there was one man who understood the art of drinking, it was Mark Twain. Welcome back to History in a Glass. I'm Josh, your guide in this tipsy time machine through history. Today we're talking about the legendary humorist, traveler, and whiskey enthusiast himself. Twain was a man of strong opinions, and when it came to drinking, he had plenty. He once said, "Too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough." I would have to agree. So in the spirit of his wisdom, we're making two drinks that Twain would have enjoyed in his travels. The whiskey cocktail, a simple yet refined drink that was widely popular during Twain's time, and the Brandy Toddy, a warm, no-frills drink Twain was known to sip when traveling abroad. So grab your ingredients and your glass, and let's raise a toast to one of America's most quotable drinkers. So let's get one thing straight. Mark Twain loved whiskey. He once wrote, "Whiskey is for drinking, water is for fighting over." And if you've ever spent time along the Mississippi River, you might agree. Twain traveled extensively, and while he appreciated fine European wines and brandies, he always came back to American whiskey. He spent his early years on riverboats, in saloons, and at fine hotels, where whiskey was the drink of choice. He also had a habit of critiquing European culture, once remarking that Europeans drank for moderation, while Americans drank for effect. So what was Twain drinking? Well, it wasn't fancy. Probably the whiskey cocktail, an early version of what we now call an old-fashioned. It was more simple, smooth, and exactly what he'd order when sitting down in a saloon spinning stories. And while we don't have direct proof that he ordered this by name, this was the default cocktail of the era. Spirit, sugar, bitters, and a touch of citrus. And since we know Twain loved whiskey, especially rye, he spent years in places where this would have been standard fare. So I think we're on solid ground here. All right, so then let's mix up a whiskey cocktail just like Twain would have encountered it in a saloon or a hotel around 1880. Now this version follows the original 1862 recipe published by Jerry Thomas, America's first celebrity bartender. And for the whiskey cocktail, we're gonna start with 2 ounces of rye whiskey. Once again, I'm using Rittenhouse here. It's bold, affordable, and close to what you would get in a 19th century American saloon. If you're looking to change it up, Pikesville or even Sazerac rye are both great alternatives. They have big flavor, old school styles, and perfect for this kind of drink. We'll need 3 to 4 dashes of gum syrup, and if you don't have gum syrup, a rich, simple syrup will do just fine. 2 dashes of Boker's bitters. If you don't have Boker's, Angostura will do just fine if that's what you got. For our citrus, we're gonna use a lemon peel, and then we also need some ice. So since I'm going old school, we're gonna need a shaker here. We'll start with our gum syrup. So 4 dashes is about 1/3 of an ounce. Next, we're gonna add the bitters, and hey, did you know that before Prohibition, Boker's was the standard bitters in cocktails like this? Angostura only took over after Boker's disappeared in the early 20th century. Next is our 2 ounces of whiskey. In Twain's time, rye whiskey was far more common than bourbon in cocktails. It was bolder, drier, and stood up well to the sugars and the bitters. Next, we just need to add our ice and give this a shake. And now we just need to give this a shake for about 10 to 15 seconds. And believe it or not, this was the standard method in the 1860s. Bartenders would shake even spirit-only drinks like this to chill and dilute quickly. It's not the modern approach, but it reflects the technique that Twain would have likely encountered. Now we just need to strain this into our stemmed cocktail glass. Now we just need to garnish with our lemon peel. And yes, I could use a pointer or 2 on how to garnish a drink properly, so if you have those, drop them in the comment below. But here we have our late 1800s whiskey cocktail. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Cheers. Okay, this is a familiar taste. It's very close to today's old-fashioned. Simple, strong, and elegant. Exactly what you would expect from proper 19th century cocktail. I can see Twain sipping this while firing off one-liners from a riverboat lounge. Now, while Twain was a whiskey man at heart, he wasn't opposed to a little brandy, especially when traveling in Europe. He didn't love European drinks, but he made do. One version we know he encountered, a simple Brandy Toddy. Hot, mildly sweet, and about as no-nonsense as Twain himself. Brandy Toddies were common throughout 19th century France, Germany, and England, served in hotel lounges, train cafes, and sick rooms. They weren't flashy, but they were practical. So let's see what goes into a Brandy Toddy. This one's pretty simple. So for the booze, we need 2 ounces of brandy. I'm using Pierre Ferrand 1840 cognac. We also need a teaspoon of granulated sugar. We need about 3 ounces of hot water, and we have a lemon peel. So let's build our Brandy Toddy. Start off by adding our tablespoon of sugar. Then we'll need 3 ounces of our hot water. Let's give this a stir until it's dissolved. This wasn't a barroom showpiece. It was medicine, travel fuel, or something you sipped on while you were wrapped in a blanket. Simple and practical. Now our 2 ounces of brandy. Give this just a quick stir. Last step is to garnish with a lemon peel. So lemons, cloves, or other spices were sometimes added in hotels, especially in France or Germany, but not always. It was flexible and fast. So you can drop in a clove if you're feeling fancy or congested. So here we have our Brandy Toddy. Let's give it a try. Cheers. Yep, so that's warm and mellow, but then it gives you just enough kick to remind you that there's still brandy in there. It's not thrilling, but it's reliable. I can imagine Twain might have accepted this with a sigh before another long day of European train schedules and polite small talk. And hey, it's actually getting late here as I record this, so I think I'm gonna make this my nightcap as well. So what did we learn here today? Well, Mark Twain was a whiskey man, but he wasn't afraid to branch out and experiment. The whiskey cocktail, simple, classic, and exactly what you would expect from a no-nonsense drinker like Twain. The Brandy Toddy, it's hot, simple, and served all across Europe in Twain's time. Not glamorous, but well documented. Just the kind of drink you'd find him sipping in a foggy hotel room after a long, frustrating day. Twain once said, "When the end of the world comes, I want to be in Kentucky, because everything there happens 20 years later." Well, if that's the case, you can bet he'd be sipping on one of these drinks while waiting. So if you want to drink like Mark Twain, give these recipes a shot and let me know how it goes. And hey, if you're enjoying this dive through history, stick around. Next time we're getting a bit strange and wild, drinking with Oscar Wilde. Until then, drink responsibly, or at least drink historically.